Troubleshooting something is one of the most, if not the most important skill that someone could have. And I don't mean that just for work, I mean that for life in general. I think that an important thing to be in life is a problem solver, and the first step in becoming a problem solver is being able to troubleshoot something effectively. I work in IT, and IT is kind of this epicenter of troubleshooting. And in IT, it doesn't matter whether you're troubleshooting a networking problem, maybe a server problem, a switch problem, or anything like that. The basis of troubleshooting remains the same. And it's not just exclusive to IT work. In any profession, be it a mechanic or a doctor or a lawyer or a teacher, you will have to take some steps to troubleshoot some sort of problem. And it's not even exclusive to careers, because troubleshooting things happens in your daily life. Say, for example, you go down to your car and you want to go to the grocery store. However, your car won't start. You don't have to be a master mechanic and you don't have to fix the problem right then and there, but you can take some troubleshooting steps and perhaps diagnose the problem, or maybe find something silly that was causing the problem and be on your way. But no matter what you're doing, the troubleshooting method remains: you first identify what is broken or what the problem is. Then you move on to testing simple solutions, harder solutions, and then even harder solutions, and you learn as you go and hopefully reach a solution. Now, the problem is, when it comes to troubleshooting, a lot of people do it backwards, and I am very guilty of that. And so today I wanted to make this video to share something that I have created and that I share with my team at work, and they have to sit there and listen to me talk about it. They're kind of captive, kind of like you are right now, but it's something that I call the Troubleshooting Tree of Excellence. It's very simple. I'm gonna draw it out, and it's probably gonna sound really kind of stupid and very simple when I draw it out, but that's kind of the point. It's a very simple way to approach really any problem, and it's really just a good reminder to start with the easiest things and then work your way down from there and take notes as you go. And I know when I draw it out, it's gonna look very silly and simplistic, but I promise if you start tackling things this way, you'll realize that it applies to a lot of different things. And oftentimes it's going to save you a ton of time. So let me draw it out for you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Troubleshooting Tree of Excellence. And yes, as I mentioned before, I do show this to help desk staff and like new hires, and I do actually call it the Troubleshooting Tree of Excellence, and I can promise you they love it. So what this serves as is kind of like a methodology or a path that you can follow when it comes to troubleshooting problems. As I said before, when I draw it out, it is probably going to look very simple, and it's kind of going to be like, you know, duh, of course that's the way it goes. But I promise, speaking from experience, a lot of people do this backwards. And so making this and always thinking about this when I go to troubleshoot something has saved me a ton of time. So just bear with me on it. I promise it makes sense. But at the top, we've got the problem. As I said before, this can be something in your career. Like in my case, it's IT. So maybe my computer doesn't connect to the network or something like that. But it applies to a bunch of different things. So at the top, you always want to know what your problem is. You want to define what your problem is. Explain it to yourself in the simplest terms. Over here, I'm just going to write define. Once we have a greater understanding of what the problem actually is, then we can start troubleshooting. So going down from the problem, you can see I have these 3 branches. There is no set number of branches for any level. This is just what I'm starting with as an example. But what you want to do is, after you define the problem, you want to go down and you want to start with solution number 1, solution number 2, and solution number 3. On this level, 1, 2, and 3, what you want to do is easy stuff. I'm talking absolute easiest things that you can think of. This is where you want to start. So if I go back to that example that I used before of a computer not being able to connect to the network, we could walk our way down and lay out some really easy, simple things for us to check first. So step 1 could be something like, check the cable. You know, is the cable damaged? Is it plugged into the wall? Is it plugged into the computer? Stuff like that. Step 2 could be something like, okay, let's make sure it's either Wi-Fi or connected to the network via cable. So that kind of gives you more to go on. And number 3 could be something as simple as reboot the computer. As I labeled over here, this is literally the easiest, most simplistic solutions that you can think of. You want to, no matter what your problem is, no matter what level of engineer or self-proclaimed problem solver you are, you really want to start with the easiest stuff first. A lot of times you'll find yourself missing the trees for the forest, or missing the forest for the tree, whatever that, you know what I mean. Now, it doesn't always work out that the easiest solutions solve something, and that's okay. From here, again, the number of branches is arbitrary. But from here, you can then step down into what you can call the moderate area. The moderate area is something that is a little more complex than easy, not quite the most complex thing. It's somewhere in the middle. What you can do from the easiest step is take notes along the way. That's going to fuel and help you with the steps that you take in the moderate section. But down here, we want to start getting a little more into the weeds and digging into things a little more heavily. And like I said, we've already ruled out the easy stuff. So with that knowledge and with the notes that we learn from that, we can then delve further into what we think the problem is. In my example, I said, check the cable and make sure it's plugged into the wall. Let's say it is plugged into the wall. Well, now we can go down further. We can check the switch and make sure that the network switch is up. We can check other computers and see if they're having the same issue or if it's just isolated to this one. Something along those lines. So we know that the cable is connected, but it's still not working. So what do? We can look at the quality of the cable, we can swap it out, we can check the other computers, so on and so forth. And you can have, like I said, you can have more branches. As many branches as you need. And again, as you go along, you want to take notes. So let's say, yeah, cable's connected, cable's fine, swap that out, still not working. Then we get to the part that most people start with, the hard level. This is where you get very deep into the weeds. You're looking at log files, you're taking things apart, you're analyzing every minute detail of everything. You've tried the easy stuff, you've tried the moderate stuff, now let's really dive into it. And I told you, when I drew it out, it was gonna look really stupid. Of course, you're gonna start with the easy stuff and work your way down. But again, speaking from experience, a lot of times I've started down here and wasted a ton of time. And again, you can go even deeper. Again, the numbers and stuff here are just arbitrary. If you need to go even further, you get further down the tree. And the most important thing is to take notes along the way and keep track of things that work, that don't work. Maybe they give you a little bit more of a clue on how to solve the problem. And the best part about the Troubleshooting Tree of Excellence is that it's not linear. I am drawing it in a sort of linear way, but that's not to say that it is completely linear. What I mean by that is, let's say we're going down this path here. We get to 11, nothing's working, but we find something. We find a clue. We find something in a log file that may help us or something like that. Well, that could then be applied to something over here, number 7. And then that could branch into its own troubleshooting steps. So it allows you to backtrack, use what you've learned from some of the harder stuff, and then apply it into some of these other solutions here. It's very important to take notes and everything as you go along, of course. But this, ladies and gentlemen, is my troubleshooting tree of excellence. Every time I tackle a problem at work or my daily life, say I ride bikes a lot and say there's something wrong with my bike. Every time I do it, I think back to this and I force myself to start with the easiest stuff first and then work my way down. It helps stay organized. It gives you a nice visualization for everything. Most importantly, it could end up saving you a ton of time. So there it is. Soak it all in. And then of course down here, eventually you get to your solution. And so this is the tree that I use and I always visualize when I am troubleshooting something. I told you, it would look silly. It looks simple and stupid, and it's like, duh, why wouldn't you do that? But I'm speaking from personal experience. I have oftentimes found myself starting down here and wasting hours. So now that I've drawn it out and kind of explained it, if you have any questions or comments, maybe some recommendations on your own tree of troubleshooting, let me know down in the comments. And I did want to end the video with the story of why I thought of this and why I use this all the time. So picture this, right? I am fresh out of college. I've got a degree in computer information systems. I'm ready for anything, and I get my first job working for a company that services clinics and does their IT solutions for them. So my first solo assignment was a computer was not connecting to the internet. They had no network access on their computer. So I go there and I am gung-ho. I am ready to dive into this thing and prove, even though I'm new, even though I'm fresh out of college, I know what I'm doing, right? I know how to troubleshoot this. And so I get there and I dive headfirst into a solution. Now, looking at the tree, I should have started with some of the simple stuff, but I didn't. I started with some of the most complex stuff that I could get into. So I'm on the machine running diagnostics, I'm checking drivers, I'm uninstalling things. I go to the switch, checking the switch configuration, make sure the switch configuration is all right, see if anything else is going wrong. I get to it on a command line level, and I'm running these commands to see if maybe something's wonky with the port that it's plugged into. I realize it's the only computer having this problem, so what do? What's my solution to that? Well, it's gotta be the port on the computer. So I'm taking other computers apart to try and find a replacement for this computer. I had major tunnel vision. I didn't look at anything else around me. I didn't check if their PoE phone was connected. I didn't check any of that. I am there, for no joke, 4 hours working on a computer that simply would not connect to the network. And it just so happened that the IT director at the time had something to do with the clinic as well. He came a little bit later. And so when he got there, I was like, man, I've done everything I can think of. You know, I've swapped the drivers, I've swapped the card, I've swapped everything. I checked the switch, I checked the ports, I did all of this other stuff. I was like, it's messed up. You're gonna have to look at it with me and see if we can figure this out. He says, okay, but we'll take a look at it. And so after 4 hours of banging my head against the wall, and then having to ask the IT director to come look at it with me, the problem, the reason that it was not connecting to the network is the cable had come loose from the wall. The networking cable was not plugged in to the wall. That port in the wall was, no joke, a foot, 12 inches away from where I had been working. I basically wasted an entire day and embarrassed myself in front of the IT director because I didn't check the easiest stuff first. I started down here and wasted so much time when all I had to do was look up, look at the easy stuff, plug the cable in. And ever since then, this has been the model that I follow when I troubleshoot things. Now, obviously, I'm in a higher position than I was at the time. I'm working in IT for about 10 years now, and my skill set has developed and grown since then. But no matter what gets sent my way, whatever problem I'm taking a look at, whether I'm looking at it on my own or I'm looking at it with a team member, I always start at the easy level and look at the simplest things first and exhaust every option, take notes along the way, and then move down. I hope you found this useful. If not, oh well. But if you did, leave a thumbs up and maybe leave a comment too about how to improve my handwriting. So, thank you.